All right, man. So we are back, and it is week number 16, and this is the final week. So it is week number 16. That means that I am now in between my two shows. It's actually Tuesday of week 16. It's August 22nd, and so I'm a few days into my second consecutive peak week, and that's because it took me a couple of days to get this video, to get the energy and the time to knock out this video, but I definitely wanted to do it and kind of bring you guys up to speed on what happened on Saturday, which was just an absolutely incredible day. And so I told my wife that I wouldn't take more than 20 minutes on this video. I actually told her 30 minutes. And so with setup and breakdown, all that kind of stuff, 20 minutes, man, 22 minutes, I want to be out the door, but I've got a lot to say. And so let's get right into it so that I can get back in there and feed my son. All right, so as I typically do, I want to recap, I want to look forward, I want to give you guys a tip. But I'm going to switch up the order a little bit this time. We're going to recap. I want to tell you guys kind of what happened on Saturday and kind of the ins and the outs. Then I'm going to share with you guys my tip for you guys, because everything I'm going to talk about moving forward and the changes and adjustments I'm making this week are all going to be kind of cloaked within that tip. So that's kind of how we're going to set things up. And I actually made a list like I had last week. I actually made a list of all the things I wanted to talk about, but I left it at work. And so it is sitting on my desk at my station at work. But I think I can remember everything I wanted to share with you guys, because obviously it's on the forefront of my mind all the time right now, since I'm trying to make these adjustments, in real time. So Saturday. So I competed in two classes. I competed in the Novice Class, and I competed in the Open Class. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about kind of how the day set up from how I felt like I was looking standpoint and all that kind of stuff when I get into the adjustments I'm going to make this week. But as far as the day, as far as it was concerned with the day, from just a bodybuilding show standpoint, the show was extremely well run. Like, we were actually ahead of schedule, which has never happened before. I've done, 15 shows. We are always behind, always, usually by 20, 30, 45 minutes. And so they had a schedule, like they had an itinerary, and they were running ahead of schedule. And so I was like blown away by this. And so just a really well-run show. Big shout out to the ANBF for just a well-oiled machine. Well, I was in the Open Class, and I was in the Novice Class. And I actually stepped on stage for the Open Class first, and then the Novice Class about an hour and a half after that. And so I did, the way these shows are set up is you have prejudging, and then you have the evening show. The prejudging is a bit of a misnomer, because that's where all the actual judging takes place. Right, you step on stage, you go through the mandatory poses, they move you around against your competition, and then they see where you stack up. And so I had to do prejudging Open, prejudging Novice, and then evening show just one time later on. I think that guy might want my parking spot, but he's not going to get it. So I went on stage at about 12:30, about noon 30, for the Open Class. There were 7 guys in my Open Class. So there was actually 13 guys total in the total Open Class. There was A and B. There was short and there was tall. Obviously, I was in the short class. So there were 7 guys in the short class Open division. And so obviously on that day, we're all kind of looking around. We're all kind of, sizing each other up. We're all kind of seeing where we might fall, that kind of stuff. And so I was seeing kind of where I stacked up just based on my own perception. And I was like, all right, this is actually a pretty tough class. I'm thinking, I'm probably 5th, maybe 6th. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I was like, all right, if I get called for 6th, that'll be a little disappointing. If I get called for 5th, I'll be pretty happy with that, because, the guy that I think the guy that might win my short class might turn pro today, because the way it works is the winner of the short and the winner of the tall kind of go like tournament style, right, where they battle it out for the overall title, and then that winner turns pro in this show. In other shows, you just have to win your class and you turn pro. It all depends on the competition. So I went on stage, I pumped up and all that kind of stuff, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But I felt really good, man. I felt really good. The only change I would make was, when you're on stage and you're posing, we were on stage for probably 15 or 17 minutes. My endurance was very strong. I was ready. I had practiced plenty. My posing was on point. But you still, when you're on stage for that length of time, you can't hold your poses nonstop for 17 minutes. Nobody does that, right? And so when you're transitioning between poses and when you're kind of changing your stance or whatever, I'm very seasoned and experienced. So I have kind of found these little hidden opportunities where you can conserve a little bit of energy. In hindsight, I think I may have conserved a little bit too much energy. And to be honest with you guys, there were a couple of moments where I forgot to squeeze my legs. Like, it's hard to remember, like, I need to squeeze my legs, I need to squeeze my biceps, I need to squeeze my chest, I need to squeeze whatever, I need to flare my lats. Like, I had everything down. But there were a couple of pockets of time, like I'm literally talking about for maybe 5 or 7 seconds, where I was in a pose and I wasn't going all out on my legs. And for me, my legs are definitely my strongest asset. My legs are definitely my standout feature. So I need to be squeezing those guys as hard as I possibly can, as often as I possibly can. So I stepped off stage, and I felt pretty good. And, my wife was my backstage person, and so she, I said, well, what do you think? She's like, honestly, I don't know. She's like, you're somewhere in the middle. I said, what do you think, like 5th, 6th? She's like, yeah, but probably. So I said, okay. So I went back in the pump-up room, and, I had about an hour and a half, which, you never know when you're going to go on with these things because the timing of things becomes very tricky. Like I said, they were ahead of schedule for the open, but then they fell behind schedule for the novice. So I actually went on later than I thought, which kind of threw off my meal timing, my sodium timing, and all that kind of stuff, which I'll get into along with those other things here in just a couple of minutes. But here's one thing that was really interesting. So I was in one of the little back rooms that they have, and I'm pumping up. I got all my stuff ready. I got my bands. I got my Dream Tan. I got Autumn right there. We're doing the whole thing, right? And I'm getting ready. Well, there was a guy back there with me. There were a couple people back there, but the guy with me, he was in the tall open class. Super nice guy in his early 30s. I'm in my mid 30s, but he was in his early 30s. His name was Mike. Awesome guy, right? Huge, very lean, just in great shape, and he was also in the novice class. And so I had kind of sized up the competition in the novice class, and there were only 6 of us in the novice class, only one division, 6 people. And so I said, all right, I might be top 30 in the novice class. If I take 3rd, I'd be pretty happy with that. I might sneak into 2nd. I said, but I don't think I'm gonna beat Mike. I don't think I can beat Mike. I think he's got me. I think I got him on my legs, and I got him on my back for sure. But he's got some pretty nice conditioning, and I mean I've got good conditioning too. I'm happy with my conditioning, but just looking at him, I'm like, all right, this guy's the real deal, So I said, he's probably gonna win it, and I'm probably gonna take 2nd, or maybe 3rd. So we get on stage for the novice class, and I felt way more comfortable about my posing. I remember to squeeze my legs at all times, and one of the things that was really cool was, they move you around while you're on stage. And they always say, they meaning the judges, they always say there's no truth to this, but we competitors, we know that there's truth to this. If they move you around, then they're interested in you. They want to see what you look like against other people, which is usually only a good thing. Well, in the open class, they only moved me once, and they moved some other guys a couple times. So I was like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Well, in the novice class, they actually moved me like 3 times, maybe 4 times. And so I got off stage. I felt really good about everything. I got off stage and I'm like, all right, that may have worked out okay. Well, then Autumn came backstage to meet me, and she was like, she had a huge smile on her face. And I said, what? She's like, honestly, I think you may have won it. I said, no. I said, there's no way. I said, maybe I'm going to take 2nd, but I'm not going to beat Mike. She's like, yeah, it's close, but I think you got him. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So when the dust settled, in the open class, so there were 7 of us. So we're all backstage. This is at the night show after our evening show. We're all backstage, and they call out the top 5. And then once you're on stage for the top 5, they call you out 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. So I'm standing at, we're backstage. We're standing backstage. And I'm competitor number 90. And so they're calling out the top 5. And they say blank, 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 and 90. I'm like, all right, man, I took top 5. That's awesome, right? That doesn't always happen for me. That doesn't usually happen for me at shows, to be honest with you guys. So I'm like, all right, cool, man. I'm probably going to get 5th. That's going to be sweet. So I get on stage, and the guy that was standing right next to me, I thought for sure he had me beat. No question. This guy was like completely shredded. He was a lot smaller than me, so I was much bigger than him, but his conditioning was on point. Well, they say 5th place is so-and-so. And it was the dude standing right next to me. And I'm like, no freaking way. I'm like, he's 5th, so now I got a shot at 4th? And then they said 4th place, competitor number 90, which is obviously me. And then 3rd, 2nd, 1st, whatever. But man, I was super pumped. I was like, wow, I took 4th in the open. I thought I was taking 5th, maybe even 6th. Not even getting called out for an award. Well, then for the novice class. So for the novice class, there was only 6 of us. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in the top 5. So I get called out for the top 5. So they say 5th place, so-and-so. 4th place, so-and-so. So I'm like, all right, now I'm waiting. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take 3rd. They say 3rd place, so-and-so. I'm like, wow, I'm still in it. I have not been called yet. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm definitely taking 2nd. And then they say 2nd place, competitor number 8, which is Mike's number. And so I'm standing there and I'm like, wow, I just freaking won the novice class. I just took 1st place. And I gotta be, it was an unbelievable feeling, man. I was on cloud 9, cloud 10, cloud 30, whatever it is. It was so cool, man. Like, we're on stage, we got all of our trophies, and I had already, you know, this happened for the open class too, but we got all of our trophies, and you know, we all take a picture together, but then whoever wins the class gets to stand on stage by themselves to take a picture. And I've never won a class before. That's why I was able to compete in the novice class. And so I took 1st place in the novice. I took 4th place in the open. Just unbelievable, man. Just really unbelievable. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to God for just an incredible day. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to God for the opportunity to train hard to get ready for that day. But just an incredible, incredible experience. So, transitioning into this week. So that's my recap from last week, and I'm at 13 minutes. I don't know that I'm going to make 20 minutes, but I'm going to try to make 22. So first of all, here's my tip for you guys. So we're going to kind of weave this into the middle. My tip for you guys is this. When you have a long journey to make, like the one that I'm at the tail end of now, when you have a lot of fat to lose, or even a lot of muscle to gain, or whatever the case may be, there's going to be points along the way where you're going to have to make changes. You're going to have to make adjustments. I've been talking about that for the last 15 weeks, so probably every single week. But one really important piece to that puzzle that I haven't really mentioned is the only way that you can make the proper change or make the necessary adjustment is if you correctly diagnose the problem. So you have to be able to self-diagnose what's gone wrong or self-diagnose what needs to change. And that only comes with experience. That only comes with education. Whether you're, working with a coach and you're leaning on your coach, then you're leaning on your coach's experience. Or if you're doing it all yourself, then you're leaning on your own experience, you're leaning on your own expertise, you're leaning on your own education. And so, that being said, this is the first time I've ever done back-to-back peak weeks. This is the first time where I've ever had 2 shows sandwiched together back-to-back. And it's hard for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm midway through the 2nd peak week now. The last couple of days of depleting have not been super fun and not been super easy. After eating quite a bit on Saturday and then eating a decent chunk on Sunday, like, I was hungry on Monday. My metabolic rate kicked up, and I had that deplete day was tough yesterday. And today's been a little bit easier. I'm getting kind of used to it. But the real benefit is this. So last week. So now let's talk a little bit more about last week and kind of how the week set up. As you guys know, if you watched last week's video, I didn't get into every detail because I have a separate project I'm working on that's giving you guys a very detailed look at what I'm doing every single day or every couple of days for my peak weeks. But I gave you guys a very loose outline about what I wanted to do for last peak week, for last week, preparing for the first show. Talking about water, talking about sodium, talking about carbohydrates, talking about all that kind of stuff. Well, I pretty much nailed it, man. Like, all of my experience, all of my education, like, I would say, if I could do last week all over again, which I'm going to have a chance to do, I wouldn't change 90% of it. Maybe even 95% of it. There's a couple things I want to change that I'm going to get into, but I nailed it, man. I woke up Saturday morning, and I was looking crisp. I woke up Saturday morning, and I was looking sharp. My body was starting to harden up more and more by each hour, which was exactly what I wanted. In the past, I've always been so nervous and so anxious that I would kind of do things too early and I would end up looking really good on Friday night and then I would fade heading into Saturday. Well, this time, I continued to look kind of blurry all the way up to Friday night, and that messed with me psychologically. I'm like, am I doing this right? I'm like, I gotta see this through to the end. I gotta do what I told myself I wanted to do. And I did it, and it freaking worked. Again, 90%, which I'll take that. I mean, I'll take 90% peak week every single time because there are so many variables. So this week, what am I going to do and how is that different from last week? Well, I want to cover basically a few different things. I'm going to cover my water intake, my sodium intake, my carbohydrate load and deplete, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about pumping up and that kind of stuff if we have time at the end. But that's a lot less important. It's really water, sodium, and carbohydrates. So I'll talk about what I did last week and what I'm going to change this week. So the main thing I want to say in a generic sense is this. My strategy last week was I didn't want to do anything different with water. I want to keep my water constant. I want to keep my sodium pretty constant until the very end. I want to keep my training, fairly, I don't want to say constant, but I had a plan for training. I wasn't going to do anything crazy with that. And so that was just training. Let me knock training out really quick here. That was just some hypertrophy training, pretty light, pretty easy reps, sets of like 12, sets of like 15, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then nothing on Thursday, just posing, and then Friday, just a light kind of circuit pump-up thing that I'm doing. For this week, I'm doing the exact same thing. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to pose on Wednesday, and then Friday, I'm going to do a circuit, but I'm actually only going to train my chest and my back because those are the two muscles that I want to highlight on Saturday. So I want to get those muscles ready for the glycogen load that that my whole body's going to experience on Friday. But that being said, my goal last week was to minimize as many variable changes as I possibly could. I only wanted to focus on carbohydrates and sodium at the end. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to mess with my water intake. I wanted to keep it high and keep it constant at about 2.5 gallons a day. I think that's about where I'm at. I've never added up the actual ounces because, like I said last week, I keep track kind of on a tally system. I think I'm around 2.5 gallons a day. And so this week, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm keeping my water high. I'm keeping it constant. The only thing I might consider doing is I might consider cutting it slightly on Friday. And by slightly, I mean I may go from 2.5 gallons to 2 gallons. Or maybe 1.5 gallons. But I'm not going on to a 1/2 gallon or 1/4 of a gallon or just sips. Because I've done that in the past. And that's a recipe for disaster. That's how you hold on to water. That's not how you rid your body of excess water. And I don't really want to, maybe I'll do a video after the show. It's kind of talking about the science behind that. Because if I do that now, man, we're going to be 45 minutes easy. And you don't want to make Mama Schultz upset. And I don't mean Mama Schultz, my mom. She's the original Mama Schultz. I mean the new Mama Schultz, which is Mama Autumn Schultz. Don't want to do that. But I'll talk about that later. So water, constant, most likely. I might make a change on Friday. I'm going to make that decision probably on Thursday. Sodium. Here's what I did last week. Here's what I'm going to do this week. So my sodium stayed constant throughout the week, Monday through Thursday last week. And then on Friday, with the carbohydrate load that I did, I added a little extra sodium. My baseline sodium numbers are probably 5,000 milligrams. I think I added probably about 1,200 to 1,500 milligrams on Friday. I felt like that was a pretty good amount of sodium to add. So I'm going to do probably about the same thing this week. I may scale it up ever so slightly to match potentially a slightly higher carb intake that I'm going to get into here in a second. But on the day of the show, So I alluded to this last week. But on the day of the show, right before I go on stage, I want to hit myself with a nice little sodium bomb to give myself a sodium spike, because that sodium-potassium ratio is what causes your muscles to contract. It's what gives you the sodium pump that you may have heard of. And so when you hit your body with a huge influx of sodium, your vascularity spikes, your veins shoot out, you feel really good, your muscles are hard, your muscles contract. And so that's what I did before I hit the stage on Saturday. I actually hit my system with 2 sodium bombs of 2 grams. Those are grams. That's 2,000 milligrams of sodium for each bomb. So 30 minutes before I hit the stage for the open, 2,000 milligrams. About 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes before I hit the stage for the novice, 2,000 milligrams. The first sodium bomb, I think, was fine. I think it was perfect. The second sodium bomb, I actually think I ended up spilling over a little bit, because when you have that much sodium, you have to slam a bunch of water, right? I mean, you can't just take it dry. And so I had to chug like 40 to 45 ounces of water about 20 minutes before I got on stage for the novice class. And so I felt softer. I felt a little bloated because I didn't give my body enough time to cycle out that water. And so I actually ended up fixing it for the night show. And I'll talk about how I did that in another video, because again, I'm at 21 minutes. I got to be mindful of the time here. And I'm just getting super excited just sharing this stuff with you guys. But I'll talk about that later on. It's an interesting thing, but we can do a separate video about that. But I felt softer. I felt more bloated. Autumn even told me. She's like, yeah, you were a little harder this morning. You were a little bit crisper this morning, which ironically enough, I won the novice class and I went on stage second for the novice class. And I didn't even look my best. And so I'm very encouraged by the fact that I nailed it in the morning. But with the timing of things, and you don't quite know when you're going to go on, so you're trying to negotiate all that, navigate all that. It's hard to do, man. It's hard to figure out when you should take certain things, and when is 30 minutes going to be before I go on stage. You don't really know. You think you know, but you don't know, because you don't know how long the previous class is going to be on stage, and the class before them, and whatever. So you really just got to do your best. So the fact that I nailed it the first go around is awesome. So this time around, what am I going to do? Well, like I said, I'm going to go Monday through Thursday. I'm keeping my sodium constant. Friday, I'll upregulate my sodium a little bit to match the higher carb intake that I'm going to do. On Saturday, this show is a little different. So first of all, I can't register for the novice class because I'm a novice champ now, man. So I can only do the open class, which was pretty cool, honestly, when I registered for the show a couple days ago. But the second thing is, it's a different format. There's no prejudge and evening show where there's like a break in between. It's just straight through. We start at 2 o'clock and we just go until we're done. So that's kind of cool, because that means I only got to time all this stuff down pretty much once. So I'm only going to do 1 sodium bomb, and I actually think I'm only going to do about 1,000 milligrams. So I don't think 2,000 milligrams is necessary, because my carbohydrate intake is not high enough to require that much. You want sodium, because sodium, I'll give you guys a little bit of the science. Sodium is a co-transporter with carbohydrates into your muscle, into the glycogen that's inside your muscle. So you want there to be ample sodium in your system when you're carb loading, so that the process of filling up your glycogen can be a little bit more seamless, can be a little bit more efficient. But I don't think 2,000 milligrams is necessary, especially when earlier that day I'll have had plenty of sodium. And so what I might do instead is just add a little bit more sodium early in the day, because I'm going to be going on stage later than I did this last Saturday. The show this Saturday started at 10 a.m. I didn't go on stage till 12:30. This show's going to start at 2. I'm probably not going to go on stage till 4, 4:30, 5. 1 sodium bomb is going to be a little bit less. The last piece of the puzzle. I'll try to do this in a couple of minutes, but I think it might be hard. Carbohydrates. So last week what I did was I tested my carbohydrate threshold on Monday. You guys might remember where I pushed it up to like 360 or something crazy. And I actually responded pretty well to that, but I said, all right, this might be getting close to a spill. Spilling is just where you're kind of a little bloated, your body can't process all that glycogen and or all that sodium. You could spill for a number of reasons. But I figured out 360 is probably a bit much. So last week I did high load on Monday, which was a test, deplete Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, load up on Friday. My original game plan was to load up on Friday with about 250. I ended up loading up on Friday with about 300 or 310 because I was hungry, man. And I was watching my body respond, and I'm like, all right, I'm not spilling. I'm blurring, which is what I expect, but I'm not spilling. So I ended up at about 3 or 310. So this week, what I think I'm going to do is I've been depleting. I added an extra deplete day to compensate for the fact that Saturday was, I don't know what Saturday was. I didn't count track Saturday, obviously. It was show day. I was probably at 600 carbs with, M&Ms and jelly beans and Reese's peanut butter cups and just all kinds of crazy stuff. Deplete Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday I'm going to load. But I think what I'm going to do is I may get closer to 330 or 350 on Friday. I'm going to bring my protein numbers a little bit down from last Friday. I'm going to bring my fat numbers a little bit down from last Friday. I want to make more room calorically and from a glycogen standpoint for more carbohydrates. I think I might respond better to that. Because on Saturday, what I'm going to do, so the one thing I think I did, and this is, the sodium bomb is the one thing I would change if I could do last week over again. The other thing I would change would be, I think I loaded up a little bit too much on the sugary type, chocolatey type carbs. Maybe not so much for the open class, because like I said, I was pretty crisp and pretty hard by my estimation. But then in between the open and the novice, I just found myself kind of grabbing handfuls of jelly beans, being concerned that my glycogen levels were too low and that kind of stuff. And that was probably just in my head. And so on Saturday, I'm going to have a little bit more of a definitive plan. Not that I didn't have a definitive plan this last time, but I'm going to really try to execute my plan a little bit better than I did the last Saturday. Which again, in the moment, is very difficult to do actually. But I think I can do it because I did so well the whole week. For the first time ever, I've never been this structured in peak week, and I'm really proud of myself for how I did execute 90 to 95% of it. So I can do that last 5-10%, I think. So I'm going to load up more on Friday, and then on Saturday, I'm going to have plenty of carbs going into the show. But I'm going to really save that sugary, chocolatey goodness until really close to the end. And so in the morning on Saturday, I'm going to focus on foods that have very low fiber and very high carbohydrate content, like maybe some white potatoes, some Cheerios, rice cakes, that kind of stuff. And I'll weave in some fat with like some peanut butter, some coconut oil, and that kind of stuff. And I'll probably just have egg whites along the way to give myself some protein, which is what I did this last Saturday. But then I'm going to wait till the very end before I have, like my Reese's cups and my M&Ms and that kind of stuff. And so that's pretty much it, man. I am super excited about this show. 27 minutes. Yeah, I guess it was half an hour. I'm really excited about this show. As I've kind of been saying all along, or if I haven't said this all along, I've been meaning to. All along, meaning these 15 weeks. The second show is the one that I think that I'm going to have a better shot at. Because the ANBF is a very prestigious organization. So for me to take 4th out of 7 and 1st out of 6 is a huge accomplishment for me. I mean, the last time I competed in a show with a similar prestige to the ANBF was WNBF. I took 10th out of 10. I took dead last. Like, I didn't get called out. I didn't even look like I belonged. And so now, for me to be middle of the pack in the open and top of the pack in the novice is totally different. But ANBF, it's not quite as prestigious as the ANBF. It's a newer organization. It's kind of an up-and-comer. And so it's going to attract not quite the competition that the ANBF would attract. And so you never know what you're going to walk into. You could walk into a stacked deck, or you could walk into, pretty easy competition. Which, oh, by the way, I meant to say this earlier. But my open class, those 7 guys, like I said, it was pretty fierce competition. Just to show you what I mean by that. So Mike, the guy that I thought was going to beat me in the novice class, but that I was actually able to edge out, he actually took 3rd in his open class. So on the tall side, he took 3rd out of 6th. So I obviously was ahead of him, and I took 4th out of 7 in mine to give you kind of a baseline, reference point. But I'm excited about this week, man. I'm excited that this can be over, honestly, because I'm tired and I'm drained and I'm fatigued. But I'm at the very end, man. I've only got a couple more deplete days and then no more deplete days. I'll be loading up Friday, and then Saturday, obviously, I'm going to have a whole bunch of food. And so, this is good. This is good. I feel good. I feel strong. I'm in very high spirits. And so, man, I got to get inside and I got to feed my son. But I appreciate you guys, as always. If you guys want to follow me on social media, you know you can. At JSchultzF3, Twitter, Instagram. Hey, you can always email me at JSchultzF3, Gmail. Let's talk training. Let's talk nutrition. Let's talk whatever you guys want to talk about. And obviously, if you like the video, share the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be amazing. I've got so many fun things coming on down the chutes for you guys, even after these shows are over. So, man, the next time I see you guys, I will be done training. So don't be surprised if I got a slice of pizza in one hand and a fudge brownie in the other. So we'll see you guys next time.